Wake up, buyer payer people. It's a beautiful day. Go grab yourself another cup of joe and say hello to Jim and Michelle Rhodes on the Buy Here Pay Here morning show. Take it away, you two.
Good morning. Welcome, everyone.
Good morning.
Welcome to the BHPH morning show. Michelle is back with us today. Glad to have her to add to the conversation.
Yeah, I was driving on Monday out to the happiest place on earth with a good friend that she's like, I had a vacation time, so I want to go to Disney World, and I have never been. So we've been, today's Magic Kingdom Day, and
she's back
I am
Disney.
so dang tired. Yeah.
So we'll see if Michelle can hang with us. But I shared with her this morning that, and of course I shared out up there on Facebook that we really have a big subject I want to take on this morning. And I reminded Michelle, this sometimes happens with me. Sometimes this is where my articles, when I feel inspired to write an article, it's just because, something's been prominent on my mind. And that's certainly the case with our subject today. So I wanted to get this out of my head and into the conversation. And so I'm excited to get started sharing that. Got a ton of stories to tell related to the car business, with my visit here in Oklahoma, but I'm going to save those for a future conversation so we can talk about this thing about transparency.
And transparency.
Right. So that's obviously a big word, and it's something that, I have seen that while we've made a lot of progress in this industry, since I, stepped in it as a manager in 97, started in consulting in 2000, and of course, owned the dealership in the middle of all that myself from 05 to 2011. And that's another story I want to tell, Michelle. One day I want to use our morning show to talk about kind of what my own dealership experience was. So happy to go through that with everybody one day. But the thing that's been on my mind this week, we've been working with clients, and I think a little background for everyone. But by the way, if you're listening, let's confirm our audio. If you'll jump in there and tell us what state you're listening from, just say hello, give us a thumbs up. Let me make sure that we know that you're in there and hearing us and that the audio is good. Because I invited a lot of people to get involved in the conversation this morning, and even though we know this time of day, a lot of people won't be able to necessarily join live, we definitely want to have a chance to get in. And good morning, Sergio. There's
good morning.
Represented this morning.
Yeah. So, Jim, you've got a little bit of a lag on your end. So if everyone just kind of bears with us every once in a while, it's like you'll catch up, but it happens every once in a while. So just letting you know.
Yeah, now I lost you. So it's most likely internet streaming delays. So yeah. I think we'll just have to keep moving and hope it will catch up. And so again, your patience is appreciated. But yeah, I think this conversation about transparency came back around. It's come up so many times in my career that I'm frankly frustrated about it. And I wanted to have a chance to express to the group, because this is one of those things where, as a collective group, we have an opportunity. This Buy Here Pay Here Success group is, to my knowledge, the largest, most engaged audience of Buy Here Pay Here dealers out there. And so it's important to me that we kind of unite our voices and be able to, have a chance to make a difference on behalf of existing and future dealers. We have a chance to really do something important, by getting our voices together. And so I think this show can be an important part of that. I'm certainly, happy to step in to be the voice of the dealers. And listen, a lot of people have said that. And I think, I always say, just, after years of, published articles, and we got a bunch of stuff out there on YouTube, and those of you who know me through the Success Group, I think you'll find, you go through and look at any of the archives, I've always been the voice of the dealer. And Michelle and I have the opportunity, because we're agnostic, and let me just be clear about what I mean by that. I mean, we don't have folks that, we don't take referral agreements. We don't accept referral agreements from vendors. We ask them to pass along any referral that would go to us as advisors, would go straight to our clients. And that's because we've always wanted to make sure that when our dealers engage us, that they know that we're not referring them to a particular provider because that provider is putting money in our pocket. So I think that's what I think is so important about being agnostic. We don't have allegiances. We're friendly with all of them. We know them. And in particular, this morning, I'm going to pick a segment. Okay. I want to talk about the funding sources that we have in Buy Here, Pay Here.
Can I interject really quick? But
Please.
Jim, before you really dive into this, I just wanted everyone to know that since joining Octane a year and a half ago, this whole idea of transparency has been something that we talk about frequently. We've had a lot of different really in-depth conversations about how do we collectively, Jim and I, speak collectively, and how do we get people to rally and like have some of the difficult conversations that maybe some of the bigger names, smaller names, whatever, will listen and maybe make some shifts or answer some questions or whatever. But this has been something that has been a part of our conversation for at least a year and a half. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, and for me, it's been going on for probably 20 years. I was a director of training consulting department back when I started doing consulting. This is dating back to 01, 02, and I left that company in 03. But a lot of these people that we talk about, I've known them since way back then, and so this is not really about picking on them as much as it is being the voice of dealers, recognizing where it's my belief that vendors can do better. I know they can do better. And I'm going to tell a story about what happened this week. and I have an apology, frankly, to one of the reps of one of the big funding sources, because I was making a connection with a dealer, as we often do. We work a lot with startup dealers, and we got a new dealer starting out west. And so we made an introduction. Excuse me. And the conversation went the same way that so many of the conversations go. And let me just kind of be clear about this. Like Michelle, if I just have you be the voice of the funding source, if you're basically, looking to provide funding to me as a new dealer. And, we understand established dealers, they've got more programs, more access. They can get maybe a line of credit, whatever there's going to be. But when a dealer is new, then we have limited options. And so, Michelle, if you're the funding source, and I come to you and say, I'm a pretty new dealer. I got a little bit of equity. I got a chance to do more business than I currently can fund. And so I'm looking for a funding partner. You're probably going to tell me, we're a good solution. We have a good program for that. We're happy to help. We'll be your funding partner. Right. And so those are the same things I heard this time. And I hear the word, partner. We want to be your partner. We want to see you be successful. And, I hear that same stuff from.
And Jim, I doubt that there's a vendor out there, a funding source vendor out there that doesn't want their dealers to succeed. So yes, partner is a word that's used, and we go a little deeper.
So, yeah, I'm, and I think what you're probably hearing in my voice is a lot of frustration around this, and it's okay. Like, I'm prepared to step out there and make some noise because I'm making that noise on behalf of dealers. And so, and again, I'm friendly with these people. They know me. And so when I speak up on behalf of dealers, I hope they're going to hear that, I'm really issuing a challenge. And again, this morning we're talking about funding sources. There will be other segments in this industry where we can do the same thing. But really what I'm talking about is, if we have Michelle again be the voice of the funding source, she's going to talk about, being a partner. And then she's going to say, well, if we're to provide funding, we probably need to put you on this program, and we're going to need to collect the paper, right? We've all seen that program. And many of you dealers that are in the Buy Here, Pay Here Success Group, or just all Buy Here, Pay Here dealers, are a number of dealers that either currently are using or have at some point used a funding program where the lending source, the funding source, required that they collect. And so this is where my part kicks in as a consultant advisor, because one of the things we do with our clients is we help them perform or produce business plans and do cash flow and profit modeling. And so I'll ask, Michelle, in this case, so what information can you provide for me about your portfolio performance rates? What data can you share with me that will help me to model out on behalf of my dealer client the the way that this portfolio is going to perform? What rate can we expect to collect? What kind of rate of charge off can we expect? What's that buyback going to look like, or chargeback, whatever terminology they use? Because I have to be prepared for that financially, right? If I'm going to be successful, if you're my funding partner and you want me to be successful, then surely you understand why I have to have a business plan and have to have some numbers that I can lean on. Now we get it. Numbers vary, but we all are speculating to a degree when we step into, any business and we're writing a business plan. But my point is that the funding source in this case has a lot more data to lean on. And I doubt they're going to buy every single contract that I'm going to send over. So if they've got any kind of funding parameters, what are those based on? What kind of performance are they tied to? And just this week, again, I pressed on behalf of a client, one of the largest funding sources in the country, what's the performance look like? Can you guys share some numbers about what your collection rate looks like, what your charge off or buybacks look like? And they hem-hawed. I don't, that's always a hard question for us to answer because dealer performance varies. And I'm sitting over there thinking, well, show me something. Give me a scatter graph, best, worst, or the most of them perform in this range. I can build a business plan around that, but I got nothing. And this is not the first time this has happened. So this is why you're hearing this frustration, for me is like, this has been happening, throughout my career. And, it's
Pretty
not
consistently. I remember there was one that we talked
Oh,
to
yeah.
like a year ago, and you asked him for data and nothing was sent. And then you asked him again for data, and there was a hemming and hawing around it. And then you asked again for data, and then
refer
the
it to the
conversation
CFO
stopped.
and still nothing. And
Yeah.
yeah. And so I can't get comfortable referring dealers to someone who's going to service, because let's look at on the, and by the way, throughout my career, I've really been in the business of teaching dealers how to service and collect their own portfolio. So we know what those numbers look like. And with that same group that Michelle's referring to, I actually emailed them. I said, I'll go first. I'll send you our numbers. And I'll tell you what our dealers collection performance looks like. And here's the way
And these are the data points that we look at. So can you just at least give us these data points? Yeah.
These are about 3 data points that anybody that's doing portfolio collections, especially a multi-million-dollar portfolio, these numbers should be like at your fingertips. And I still got nothing. So what is going on there? I mean, you just have to ask yourself, and this is why I'm just kind of fed up, and I'm just asking dealers to join me in this and say, look, we can demand more. Like we can definitely collectively expect more, and I'm going to continue to ask for more because we people are out there talking about data pools and having access, and obviously if they got in the business of providing funding to buy here, pay your dealers, they expect some level of performance on that portfolio, right? They're probably, if they got money behind them, they're probably projecting some level of portfolio performance. Well, share with us what that looks like. Give us a range. I think they call it a 2 sigma rule in statistics or data. Best case, worst case, it kind of performs in this range, and so we can build a business plan around that. But I just get nothing. And so go ahead.
I wonder if, and here's something else that they could share is that if the collection rates are hinged upon certain underwriting parameters, then share them. I mean, everyone
Right.
wants to be the most successful in the collection rates so that they don't have to do any buybacks. They don't have to do all this kind of stuff. So, I mean, if you can't give us solid numbers on that, then at least share like what parameters some of the best ones are using and what their collection rates are and what some of, just something that people can work off of.
Yeah. So look, we get it. I mean, if you're going to work in cooperation with the dealer, then you're going to suggest that collection rates are this. I call them conversion rates. So as an example, with most portfolios, we're able to say, cars in this price range or contracts of this size, you can expect a conversion rate of X. So let me be very specific, because this is something I think we need to do as dealers, is get really specific in everything that we talk about when we share numbers. So think about this. Opening portfolio principal is X. And then in the month of May, we collect X amount of principal on that portfolio. Give me that ratio. How much principal do you collect as a percentage of your opening balance of principal? Let's start there.
Of current principal owed.
Of active open principal at the start of the month.
Yeah.
So let's use that one. Just send me that number. These are examples of some of the numbers that I've requested from funding sources. Show me how you collect. Show me how well the portfolio performs under your guidance, under your collection policies and practices. How does it perform? Because if I can do that, then I can plug the numbers in and I can decide if it really makes sense for me. I know the cost of the money. And so if I can see the chargebacks, I can see the volume of repos, and because like I said, we have that with our dealers. We know what those numbers look like. And so we can share that, and they also vary with us, but we can at least tell a dealer, here's best case, here's worst case, something, and we just get nothing. And so I'm aware that there are some privacy considerations here, but to me, this is a bridge that we got to cover. We got to close that gap, and that just means to me, speaking up, speaking out, getting dealers to kind of add their voice to what we're talking about. And that then allows me, because frankly, if the funding providers won't give me their collection performance numbers, then I'm going to have to go straight to the dealers and get it from them. I'm going to have to go out there and, hey, anybody who's done business with XYZ finance company and use their payment streaming program, can you share in the group what your portfolio performance rate was like? And we may need to do that anyway, just to kind of, verify what we're doing. But I'm just simply saying, this is what we can do as dealers when, we're not getting, results elsewhere, because it's just that important to me. We're trying to, we need our capital providers, right? We know we need them to, help us bridge our way into business. And they're important. And like I say, I know them. And they've been around a long time. What does that tell you? They're doing it right. They've learned from what they're doing. They've settled into a program that works for them. That also tells me they should have some data that they can lean on to share with us, even if it comes in scattergraph and generic private form. At least, share with us what your typical portfolio performance. If you're going to require me as a dealer to allow somebody else to service, you're going to demand that you service, then I'm basically banking my business future on your performance.
Exactly.
I need to know what your performance looks like in order for me to agree to step into that program. And so this is where I just basically step in and be the voice on behalf of my clients. And like I say, I owe an apology to one of the reps, because I pressed pretty hard and the client was on the line, and I'm sure the client appreciated it, but the lender, the funding source, is probably a little ticked off at me. But, again, I represent the dealer. And so that's what I'm trying to do here. That's why I thought it was so important to get this conversation started and make sure that folks know we Michelle and I talked about, it's a pretty heavy subject for, morning conversation, but it's that important to me. We get it out there, and I think we need to get this conversation going. Michelle, what do you?
Exactly. Can you hear me? Oh, there you are. Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think that typically when we are referring a client to a vendor, we know the program pretty close to inside out. We know the people. We know a lot. Funding has been a really different thing than a lot of the other vendors. And there are a lot of vendors out there that we have great relationships with, and if anything, to me, it's if we can figure out, if we can get the funding parameters defined, and like what is the most successful thing, what's the least successful thing, if we can really start dialing into what are the underwriting parameters, what are the things that help the collection departments be the most successful at these funding at these funding companies, then let's share that. Let's really teach that. And I know that being new to Buy Here, Pay Here, that there are like probably a zillion and 100 different business models, different ways that people write paper, different ways that people do their thing. But being the voice of the dealer, everyone wants to be more successful. So, just the fact that streams like Buy Here, Pay Here Success, people ask the questions, the people that are new, because they want to know what works best. And so we just are asking that maybe we figure out if we can't dial down to the numbers specifically, or if it, like Jim said, we put it together in a more broad sense, but let's really start to get specific about what kind of underwriting, what kind of contracts these dealers need to write, what kind of underwriting they need to have, so they really can be the most successful with specific lenders out there.
Right. Right. Just to take a moment to say, to acknowledge some of our folks jumping in there. We acknowledge Texas, Pennsylvania's speaking up. We got Alabama in there twice. I just saw another one. I recognize the name, but I forget where they're from. But yeah, it's important to have a chance to say those things. And I think the other part that happens sometimes when I'm speaking to lenders, they'll, and to keep in mind the nature of our engagement with a client sometimes is that they'll reach out and say, well, yeah, you got a lead, you got somebody's looking to start business in Florida, just send me their contact information. I'll reach out to them, and I'll have to tell them, no, I don't think you understand how it works.
We don't do it that way.
Yeah. I'm going to have to understand your program. And because what we do for our clients is we help refer them to best in class providers. And, if we're not happy with your program, we don't think it's a fit, then our client will probably never hear about your program. So, we're only going to introduce, recap, here's why we didn't, send you to this one, but why we think it's the best fit for you as a dealer. And so this is obviously, we see it a lot with startups, new dealers, because that's a critical stage. We're trying to get them, and it's expensive money, right? And so we're trying to make sure that dealers have access to the best possible program to bridge them into a more traditional line of credit or whatever they might need to grow. But this is obviously true too of any funding source at any stage of the business. If they're going to service, at least with this particular conversation, if they're going to service, then we need to know what that servicing and what that performance looks like. So that's where I was really coming from. If you folks that are still in there, I see North Carolina's represented. Welcome. If anybody's there, Oklahoma, hey, glad to see Oklahoma. I'm in Western Oklahoma this morning myself.
Wait.
And go ahead.
No, I was kind of thinking too. This is like on the back end of a relationship with a lender. Is we hear horror stories about lenders putting people out of business too, and it's like, that's another thing to be able to understand. I wish that we had a better understanding about what it is that people do that actually make them fail at the lending side.
Right. No, that's definitely something that we can, work on with established dealers. But make no mistake, we're not out there to pick on lenders or anybody else, any other providers. We like them, we need them. We want both the provider and the dealer to be successful. It's just that I think what we're trying to say this morning is there should be no mistake about when you hear Jim and Michelle speaking, we're speaking for dealers. Our interest first is in success of the dealers. And that just means, we need to be able to access that AI. We need to be able to access that data, and, data's getting better and better all the time. And, just think about it. If you're going to be a funding provider and you're going to bring millions of dollars to the Buy Here, Pay Here industry, aren't you going to have some data to tell you how your portfolio is performing? I mean, it should be like at your fingertips. And, maybe it's laid out currently differently than what I might be asking for, but it shouldn't take much to produce, 3 to 5 key numbers that I'm suggesting are helpful to me in building a business plan for you as a dealer then, there's just a handful of numbers that I need. So why would it be so difficult to get that? And so to me, that's a transparency question. And if we can't get more transparent, then, it's just going to be a problem for us to refer dealers and have any be able to have any probability of success, or promises of success for dealers. When we have dealers that have enough funding to be able to service their own portfolio, originate their own paper, we can promise them with some degree of success, some degree of certainty, what kind of success rate they can expect, certainly within a range. And so that's what I'm saying. Well, if I can do that with self-servicing buy here, pay here, then most any funding source should be able to do the same. And I just think we have to kind of unite our voices as dealers out there and have a chance to, get folks' attention, and we can expect more and require more, and then we'll be able to make better judgments about who is the right funding partner for us. And of course, Michelle and I can then, refer dealers to, what we call best in class providers. So I think that's probably enough for me, Michelle. I've kind of expressed the part I wanted to get out of my head.
Well, and I just want to reiterate, it's transparency is a really, really big word, and we just and it's a big deal for it's a big deal for us. It's a big deal for the dealers that we represent, and we in order for we really want transparency from all the vendors out there. We want to be able to ask the right questions. And so if we're not asking the right questions in the right way, vendors reach out and let us know, what is it? Is there something that's lost in translation? Is there, why aren't we able to get to those things? And, help us out, because we've got a lot of great friends out there in all the different sectors of vendors or industry providers. We've got some great friends, and we're not out here to pick on anybody. We just want to make sure that we're translating this. We want to be able to refer the best in class to everybody out there, because we really are. We're not about choosing our friends and this person, they're scratch back and forth. We don't take any kind of compensation, and we just really want to make sure that you guys are having the best experience and the best information to be able to help you be the most successful. So that's my 2 cents.
Sure. Yeah, good. Thank you for that. We'll and I see Clearwater, Florida jumped in there. That's hometown for Michelle and myself currently. So welcome, Clearwater. We glad to have you in there. But yeah, I would say too that this is something that we want these lenders and funding providers to be successful, and we just think the technology's obviously moved in our favor in the couple of decades that I've been around the business, and we're excited to be able to add to the voice of buy here, pay here dealers to try to get more data in our hands so that any of us can make our own business decisions. And that's just kind of always been a frustration for me about even going to conferences, and you hear numbers presented and they don't give the full information. They don't give the transparent data behind it. And I just think, it almost feels insulting to me to dealers, is like dealers can make their own business judgments. They just need the information to be able to make those decisions. And so that's what today's conversation is about for me, is let's get information in the hands of dealers and let them make judgments. And obviously we'll be helping dealers make those kind of judgments. But that's that, like I say, that's the part that vented. And
Yeah, this won't be the last that people hear about this. And I think that as we feel free, all of you dealers out there, and even vendors that are in the finance or the money space, send us some information, send us some questions. I think that we're just starting this journey of talking about transparency in capital today, and so you'll probably hear about it again in the future, but we'd really love to hear your thoughts and on the subject. I just wanted to point out one of our users, Facebook users, said, ask who keeps what, who keeps the daily late interest, who can help the dealer truly build wealth, and who can help the dealer from over leveraging their portfolio. So there's a lot of really good questions out there, and over leverage. Yeah. And there's we would love to be able to put together some kind of like spreadsheet, prospectus, whatever, so that people actually have a space where they can go and look at all of the important questions in one place, and be able to decide who they want to reach out to. If if they don't have someone like Jim or I to help kind of guide them through the process, that we're able to create something that dealers have the ability to be able to guide themselves to a certain point, just from having all really great information. That's something that we've, besides the transparency thing that we've talked quite a bit about, eventually putting together something like a prospectus or whatever for different vendor sectors. So, like I said, this is not the first time, or this is not the last time that you're going to hear this kind of subject come up with us.
Sure. And so lastly, I would just say that, numbers don't lie. And so we can, this question about, leveraging portfolio, or the leverage on the portfolio. If we have the numbers, we can forecast our own leverage. We can forecast our ratios, across our 2 years of business plan or whatever we're building. So yeah, it's just about having numbers, having good numbers to lean on, and feeling confident that we can build our business plan and predict with some degree of certainty what kind of, what our performance looks like, and all understanding we got to adjust and recalibrate from time to time, but we need some good numbers to step in. If I know, because I know those funding sources want us to be successful as dealers as well. So
Yeah.
let's connect those dots and get the data that we need. And so again, we invite you to add your voice to that. Please, I realize people won't get a chance to necessarily see this live very much, but as you get a chance to view it, it'll be available on YouTube and should be available also in the BHPH Success Group. So, you can jump in there and find that. And please add your comments there, your thoughts.
Absolutely.
And there's another place to tell us what other topics you want us to take on as we move forward. Michelle and I are just it's going to be free flowing conversation around here on all subjects by your payer. But if you have something in particular that you want us to bring, by all means, let us know. But why don't we wrap up there? Michelle will pick up the conversation on Friday morning, and hope to have many of you join us then. But until then, goodbye.
Have a great
from
Wednesday.
Oklahoma. Yeah.
Yeah. And goodbye from Florida.
Yeah.
We'll see you guys later. Thanks.